Hi, this is Apocalypse Queen Radio, and I am your host, author A.R. Shaw. And um, this is a copyrighted podcast solely owned by Authors on the Air Global Radio Network. I wasn't supposed to say that last part. Anyway, this is the Women of the Apocalypse show, and we already have 14 watchers. And with me today is Annie Berdel, very good friend of mine, Kate Morris, and Sara Hathaway, all accomplished female authors in this genre. And we wanted to do a show together just to discuss what we do as female authors in a male-driven genre, and have our fans come in and just ask us questions, participate, see what we can accomplish in 1 hour. Okay, and our rules are trying not to talk over one another, and that's not easy to do. But I just want to go ahead and welcome, let's see, who's at the top? Annie Berdel, go ahead and introduce yourself. Say hello.
Hi, I'm Annie.
Go ahead, Kate.
Hi, everybody.
And Sara.
Hey, how's it going?
Okay, so far we have Biff Baker, and he says howdy from Texas. Some of us recognize certain fans, and others, they haven't discovered us yet or not, but we know our own fans mostly. So that's pretty cool. Chris Masters says, looking forward to this. Can't wait for book 10 of the McLean Apocalypse. This must be one of Kate's stories. Michelle Proc, smiley face. Annie Berdel, she says she can't wait. And then Melinda Dorado was tagging Ashley Jones, apparently. So you guys, the fans out there, Marty Mullins, all of you, you're welcome to ask questions. But we'll go ahead and start off and with a couple of our own. I guess that's kind of hard, like where do you start? So I'm going to just kind of do a panel discussion and say, we've all written multiple books in this genre, and it's kind of funny because a lot of these a lot of our work are different authors. Their main book, it's usually their main protagonist is usually a manifestation of themselves, their own character. Glenn Tate's done this. Several authors do this. Is this something that you also do, Annie? Is your main protagonist, is she you?
And to some degree, yes. I wrapped my whole family into it, actually, including my now ex-husband. So I had to figure out how to kill him off. So guess what? He's not there anymore. So it'll take an interesting spin from there. I got a lot of, I can't believe you did that. And it's like, well, if you knew what was going on in my real life, you would understand why. So yeah, life goes on. So does the books.
Yeah. Kate, how about you?
I don't think that there are elements of different people, including myself, that come out in my characters, but they're all, they're derivative of different people that I know, but not exactly a person to a T.
Okay. And Sara?
Yeah, I would say that my lead character, Erica Moore, is definitely kind of a portrayal of myself, but a little bit cooler, maybe.
Yeah, that's funny. We'll like attributes to them.
Right, and then also my family with some additions there as well too. So yeah.
Let's see. Michelle Proc says, "Hi, all. Love your work. Waiting impatiently for your next works." So we all get that.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, cool. So we do get a lot of we do get a lot of fan pressure at times, right?
Yes.
And Annie, I know that you and I have both gone through a crazy year, and Kate as well. I know that for sure. And it's how do you handle your home life and your writing world? Like, how do you and getting those emails from your fans saying, "Where's the next book? Where's the next book?" And they're demanding, which is a great problem to have. They're demanding. So how do you manage your writing life with your daily life, or is this your day job? This is my day job. Annie, go ahead.
Yeah, I retired last year from my old day job, if you want to call it that. But I have such a close relationship with my core readers that they know what's going on in my life. They actually helped me survive through my divorce. They've seen me go on from there. They know that, I just retired and I bought a cabin in the woods to be that little old lady with the long hair, the long gray hair, and, getting away from people and all that. So, they know what's going on. I'm pretty adamant. I don't share it on my public page, just because I do have a very nosy ex-husband, but they know what's going on. They've got my back, and that's what's important to me. They're my sisters, they're just not my fans.
Right. And Kate, how do you manage it? You have
a lot of caffeine, long nights. I'm pretty private. I don't really share a whole lot on Facebook or any social media. But I do still have, my twins are still in high school and I homeschool. So my day is filled with homeschool, and then now they both work. So running, and I'm like the mom taxi, and then we have animals and a mini farm. And so my writing usually starts around 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and I write till about 3.
Wow. Yeah, I can't do that. How do you do that?
A lot of caffeine.
Yeah. Sara, how do you do it? How do you manage it?
I'm pretty much in the same boat. I have an 18-year-old and a 7-year-old, and I do a lot of martial arts training, and I instruct Taekwondo as well. So, but being an author is my day job. So, I find that because I have the Changing Earth podcast, so I take all my books through my podcast and do interviews on every chapter with the survival professional and stuff like that. And that kind of gives my fans like an expectation of when the next one's coming, because they know that even if it's written, I'm not going to issue that book until that podcast season is over with, right? Mm-hmm. So even though they're nagging me for, the next one, I'm like, nope, I need time to perfect it, and you're just going to have to wait, and you can stay with the podcast, and you get the story and all the education from there too. So
that's really awesome. Yeah. Let's see. Michelle Proc says, let me ask the authors really quick. Can you guys see the fan comments?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can.
Okay. Some people can see it and some can't. I don't know. So Michelle Proc says that it's because we're all talented and they do understand. Sandra Hunt says, hi, everyone. And Stacy Wright says, hello from Houston.
Hello.
Texas. Okay.
God bless Texas.
Yes. So do you draw from your own experiences in your work? Is there, like I know Annie she talked about, she just did. What about you, Sara? Let's go from there. So you use a lot of your martial arts in your work.
I do. So I draw from a lot of my own experiences. I grew up country, so I was just hunting and fishing, and I really got into wild foraging when I started having a lot of medical problems and stuff like that. So put all that information in my book because I try to teach at the same time as I'm trying to weave this really cool story to entertain people. Mm-hmm. So I do draw off a lot of my own experiences, and then of course create a new world where you have no experience in. So that takes you into imagination land.
Mm-hmm. And Kate.
I do. I'm an avid shooter. I've been shooting since I was a little kid. It's some of that information's on my website, but yeah, I think so. And I really follow politics a lot. So my books come from more of a political breakdown, political apocalypse, nuclear. So that and military experience, not me personally, but all of my family. So I can draw off of that. But yeah, and we've had a farm for 25 years, my husband and I. So we've always done like canning and stocking up and prepping and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit you at your home months ago, and it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
It's amazing. And Annie, what about you?
Oh, absolutely. The farm in Alpha Farm, the setting is the farm I grew up on. I think all of us as authors, pull from our past and the experiences that we had to put them to make it more realistic. You can definitely tell a writer that has no clue what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very important.
Right. Michelle Prox says or asks, how did you decide to publish and what steps did you take? Go back to Annie. How did you decide to publish and what steps did you take? So whenever you wrote your first book, you actually had prepper chicks before you wrote your first book, right? Am I correct?
Right. I did it the opposite way everybody else does it. I already had the fan base, and then I had knee surgery and wrote the first book or part of it and sent it to my mentor, the king of my life of writing, G. Michael Hoff. And he's like, you got to finish this. And then he got the whips out and he's like, this is what you do. Bam, 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 bam. And I listened to him and thankful that I did. And the man is a huge part of my life. So I appreciate everything that he's done for me.
Cool. Yeah. No, he is. He's a great buddy. He really is. Kate, what about you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. How did I decide to publish? Well, I was going to go traditional publishing, but it's really hard to break into that unless you're already an established author. I don't know if a lot of the fans realize how incredibly hard that is to get into it. Yeah. And I had talked with a few author friends just through social media that I made connections with, and they said, you're crazy to, go with a publishing house. Self-publish, that's the way to go. And if I had gone traditional published, I would still just be on book 3 instead of getting ready to release book 10 because it's a much, much slower process. Yeah. So being self-published, all of us have that freedom and a little more, flexibility. We don't have deadlines, only ones that we set for ourselves, but then we also are able to work on our own timelines too.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead, Sarah.
When I did my first book, I was going to college for business. My teacher told me that I was writing too flowery and I had to stop that. Yeah. And so I was driving down the foothills every day and I was like, okay, well, what happened if I was down here when something happened? So that's kind of what sparked my interest. And it was a hobby project. I got pregnant with my second son and I finished my book and my mom was like, you wrote a whole book? You have to publish this thing. And I'm like, no, who's going to want to hear my book kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And went ahead and did that. I was originally with Tate Publishing. If you know who they are, you'll feel sorry for me. Oh. So I quickly taught myself how to just do everything that has to do with my books and went from there. And it's been great ever since. So
cool. Let's see, Biff Baker, he's asking us a question. The teaching part is important to many of us. I've put together my bug out bag and bought firearms, knives, and accessories based on what the characters were using. Keep the referrals going. Chris Master says, have any of you offered to go with have had any offers to go with a TV series? The McLean Apocalypse would be a great TV series. Rooting for you. Yeah, we would love that.
Yeah, that would be great. The only problem with being self-published is that you don't have an agent, or if you do, I don't have an agent. So I don't really know how to market that to the would-be Hollywood producers that would be interested in buying that out. We just need our fans to all go together and just start spamming Hollywood producers to make our movies.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. We need them to all the letters that they send us, get this book done, or when's the next book coming? Those need to actually go to the movie producers, I think.
Exactly.
Rhonda Scogan Lombardi says, hi, Kate.
Hey.
Okay, let's see. What would you do if you no longer wrote? There are days, I've sat at my computer and I'm like, yep, this is going to be a work on promotion stuff day because it's not happening today. So, what would you do if you no longer wrote? You couldn't write books anymore. What would be your profession, Annie?
Well, since I just moved to the cabin, I'm still unpacking. But I have to get my greenhouse up. I've got to get my gardens in, my medicinals going. We've got all the animals ready for winter. Cool. So that was our main focus getting here, was getting them set up and ready. So I have plenty of things to do. Trust me.
So you would
I have a
homestead.
whole life that I have to. Oh yeah, homestead, and I love medicinals and curing yourself naturally as opposed to pharmaceuticals.
Michelle Dross says, "Hi, Kate. I love the McLeans."
Hey.
Love. Kate, what would you do if you no longer wrote? And
Oh,
I have to give
I
you
don't
a
know. Leave my
caveat.
house.
I have to also say the kids grew up and moved away.
Yeah. Wow, that's a depressing thought. I don't know. Writing's all I've ever wanted to do. So for me, I can't see, maybe I wouldn't publish books, but I'd still write for me.
Yeah.
That's my only creative outlet. I'm not an artistic person, and I don't draw, or, music's not really me, but writing's kind of always been my thing.
Yeah. Sarah, what about you?
I have to agree with Kate. I'd probably just stab myself in the eyes. I don't know. Don't
do that. Don't do that.
It's like my drug, it's my outlet and my release, and you get to live through your characters, and it's just so much fun. I have so much passion there. So I'd probably work out a lot more. I'd have to like triple my workout to be able to burn off all the, negative energy and stuff. But yeah, so I would definitely probably go crazy if I couldn't write. It's just always been a part of my life. So
yeah, no, I can relate. I'd probably read a lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Imagine having to get a job at, say, a bank or something.
Yeah, no.
No. I mean, I have great respect for anyone who does, who does those things, but I would struggle with it a lot.
For sure.
Okay, so
I sold insurance for a while, and it was like, oh gosh, get me out of here. Nightmare.
Oh, I worked for an insurance guy once. What's the most interesting thing you've found during your research? So Annie, like,
I'm not gonna no. I'm just gonna no.
Okay.
No.
We will move on.
Family rated show. Yeah, Kate, that's up to you.
Well, I also write crime thrillers about serial killers. So if the FBI ever raided my house and searched my internet searches, they'd be like, this woman's like, she's searching all these things on nuclear war and missile heads, and oh my goodness. And then I'm researching like blood splatter analysis. So I'm sure all of our computers have like the world's strangest searches.
Yeah. Sarah.
Probably the scariest thing that I've found out, because I just wrote my first book just as like a survival story, wilderness survival, lots of that. And when I went on to my next book, it was like my ode to big government and like how the government responded to it. Mm-hmm. And as I was doing my podcast, I started realizing that there's all these executive orders that are really in place for if national disaster hits to like control everything about our lives. Uh-huh. And everybody's like, oh, it's cool. We trust them. And I'm like, no, that's not like a good thing. That's water and power and everything, your labor, your home, your property, everything. So that people
are saying to trust them, and then all of us writers are like, we're building a bigger bunker.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, no, I am not. Yeah, I'm not trusting you. I'm good with that. So that's probably the scariest thing that I really realized, that it's all already written and in place, just waiting for the day. And that was kind of really eye-openingly scary.
Yeah. It is. It's funny when you start to research, like whenever I wrote Surrender the Sun, I was researching for a mini ice age, and I actually found this thing called the Maunder minimum, and it is a real big deal. And so a lot of so now people are discovering this, and they're going, you actually already wrote that. Yeah, I did. But it was bizarre discovering something you thought might be there.
Yes, I had that same experience in a podcast. Like, I laid out how the government would handle it. And then I talked to somebody that does DMAT services and stuff. I'm like, how would this look? And she like started explaining almost exactly what my book was. And I'm like, oh, goodness gracious.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Stacy Wright says, good thing we don't have to worry about y'all stopping your writing. Yeah, it's not possible.
No worries.
Yeah. If it's not your fans that will kill you, It's your characters that won't stop. You won't sleep again, or I wouldn't.
Yep.
Okay, so whenever I don't know, this is a silly question, but whenever you're sitting down for your day and your night and you're starting to write, is it coffee, tea, or spirits? Kate already said caffeine. Do you really drink caffeine at night?
Oh yeah. If
Really?
I drink an iced tea around, or a hot tea, and either tea's kind of my thing.
Okay.
Around 6 or 7, I'm good till like 3.
Wow.
I'm not a morning coffee drinker, but I'll go late. I know what I need to get through. So, and I find that I write a lot better when I'm really tired. I don't know if you guys are like that, but if around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, when I'm like really, really sleepy, that's when it just starts coming.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm a zombie.
No? Just it happens when it happens. Annie, what about you?
See, the beverage isn't what gets to me. It's funny that Kate said that. I put my headphones on and find the hardest rock that I can find, and the louder and the faster it is, the faster I write. Of course, I misspell too, but that's besides the point. But yeah, that's what gets me is the loud, fast music. Of course, it affects my driving too. So.
And Sarah.
Yeah, I just I burn the midnight oil a lot as well with my writing, but so I do a lot of website design and stuff, just trying to earn extra money for around the author work. And so whenever I'm taking a break, I gotta walk away from my computer, and I write everything by hand. So I'll just grab my notebook and head outside. And
are you one of those people who actually writes their books by hand?
Yeah, I've got notebooks just full of all my writing because I don't know, my brain just works better that way, and then it gives me time to type it into the computer, and I can really mold the story at that point because I already know where it's going. And yeah, so I just like to take my notebook outside. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's see. Biff Baker asks, Kate is the only one of you I've read so far. What book series would be the best of you to recommend to start with? Okay, so he's asking the rest of us, I guess, which is the best. Annie, can you answer that?
Alpha Farm.
Alpha Farm. And Sarah?
My first book, Day After Disaster, is the beginning. So, I mean, that's the Changing Earth series.
Okay. The what series? I'm sorry?
The Changing Earth series.
The Changing Earth series for Sarah. And for me, it would be Graham's Resolution. So, and Kate, just for everyone else who's listening, what's the best book to start with? McLean series, book 1, correct?
Yep, book 1, unless you're looking for crime series.
Yeah.
I also have a thriller series out.
Cool.
Nice.
And I don't think I even knew that. I need to know what that is.
Yeah, I have 2 released on that series. It's the Detective Lorena Evans story.
Okay.
It's pretty dark. It's set in Ohio, but it is about serial killers. So
great.
Yeah.
Chris Masters says all of us readers and fans need to get in touch with Hollywood agents about making these book series. Yes, please.
That would be nice.
Yeah. Let's see. I could think of a couple names, but I can't think of them right now. Sean something comes to mind.
The guy who did Independence Day.
Yeah.
What's his name? Nice.
Oh, we just lost Kate. Just a second, Kate. Coming back in. Okay, so pantsers or planners? Do you know what I'm talking about? Pantsers or planners? Annie, do you plot out your stories, or do they come to you naturally? You sit down and it just happens, or do you plot?
I've attempted to plot things out, but once you get going, the story has a mind of its own and takes over, and I can end up someplace completely different than where I start out. Right. Now I've got an idea of what each book is going to be about and how I want the story to end. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll start writing the beginning, write the end, and then fill in the middle. So I'm a complete by inspiration.
It's good. So you're a pantser, mostly.
Absolutely. Sometimes without pants, but yeah.
Kate, how about you?
I'm a planner. I have to have a pretty good, I start off and I write like 2 chapters, and then I stop, and then I start my outline. because with the McLean series, there are so many characters and so many things that has to happen before the end of each book. So I'm a planner. Yeah. I'm also a sticky note person, so they're kind of everywhere.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
Sarah.
I'm a pantser. I had like a timeline kind of at one point, and now my timeline's like been thrown out the window about book 5, you know, and it was pretty like, so I'd write the book anyway and then be like, okay, I have to plot it out just so where I know what happened in the former books to keep it in track for the future books. So yeah, this story, I call it my writing demon, and it just kind of takes over and decides like what's going to happen in the story.
Yeah.
And I feel kind of like exhausted and wiped out afterwards.
I really think that plotting is very efficient, and we probably would finish books quicker that way, but it doesn't work for me that way either. I sit at my desk, it comes to me, that is the way it happens. That's the only way that it happens. Stacy Wright says, how do y'all develop your characters? Annie?
Well, mine are based off of real people, so they probably carry a lot of the same attributes that they do. And when I wrote it initially, I wrote it with their real names and had to go back and change everything. But, you know, do we change a few things? Yeah, you know, but for the most part, you know, some of them are very, very similar to people that I actually know.
Cool. Kate, what about you?
How do I develop characters? Well, my series itself came to me in a dream. So I already had about the first 5 characters God given to me, I suppose. And then the rest of my characters are easily developed because my stories are very family oriented. So there's always a lot of family members that just keep getting added.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And Sarah?
Some of my characters are planned that I know I want, you know, a certain character to enter. I might give them attributes of people I know and stuff. Definitely in my earlier books, it was more that way. And now it's kind of as the situation calls for it. And I actually have a huge notebook of like all my characters and their backstories. And I go find pictures of them so that I know like what they look like. And I can come back to them each time, be like, yep. When I'm writing the book, I flip their picture open so I can describe them and everything and really give them life.
Yeah. And they just come to me and tell me who they are. I mean,
right.
What they look like. That's just, I don't know why or how that happens, but that's just the way it is. So we're writers, and most writers are avid readers. Annie, what are you reading right now? What is like I'm really trying to remember. Oh, I know what I'm reading. So Annie, what are you reading right now? There's a ton of books behind you.
Right at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh no, I love books. This is just one of many bookshelves that I have. I still have a garage full of books I have to finish unpacking at. What am I'm reading right now? A book called Well Hole. It's about digging a well. So nothing fantastic.
No, that's awesome.
I like technical stuff and learning how to do things myself and all that. I have all of your books, and I'm close friends with several authors in this genre that I adore, and I read anything I can get my hands on. Basically, I do get into a lot of end times prophecy kind of stuff, and so I'm all over the place. So it's nothing in particular.
Yeah. Like can you read in the same genre when you're writing your book? Does it bother you at all? Some writers will avoid that.
When I'm writing, I don't have time to read. That's a different season for me. So when I'm not writing, I'll pick up something to read for fun. If not, it's technical manuals, how to do this, how to do that, those kind of things.
Right. How about you, Kate?
I'm unsuccessfully trying to finish a Dean Koontz book that I started like a year ago. He's my favorite author, so I do follow him. I've read him since I was like probably 13. So, and no, I don't read any apocalypse books at all. Someday I'll probably read all of them, but for me, I don't want anybody else's storylines to influence what I would do with my characters or storylines. And then I have a new series coming out at the beginning of the year that's a new apocalypse series. So I definitely stay away from all apocalypse books.
Yeah, that's a common thing. Like some people will definitely not read while they're writing those. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, I tried to tackle 1984 when I just got back from a road trip to Colorado. I was out at the Self-Reliance and Simple Life Experience, and boy, that book was just so boring. I couldn't even get through the first chapter.
Oh, I read.
So I had brought my books. I mean, the great concept. I mean, everybody's like, it's so awesome. I'm like, oh, this sucks. Me and my husband are wheel, you know. So luckily, I brought my books along. My husband loves when I read them, you know, my books, and we're going. He loves my stories. So I do actually read my own stuff a lot. And then it's just hard to find time when you're working on so many books to read more material. And so, you know, I have a lot of authors that come on the podcast and stuff, and they'll send me books, and I'm like, oh man, it's going to be like on the bucket list, you know? So, but I'd also read a lot of technical information as well. So I'm designing apps, and Johnny Jackson's book, Absolute Anarchy, is a great read. So I go into that one and peruse it often.
Yeah. Right now I'm reading The Tide by Anthony J. Melchiori. And I probably said his name wrong, but it's, I don't do zombies, right?
Yeah.
But he is a fantastic writer. He'll be on next Wednesday, and he's a biologist by trade.
Oh, very cool.
And he really came at this with a totally different angle. And the book actually starts, during where, well, it was the American Holocaust of Japan, during Hiroshima, basically. So it sort of starts right there, but it's really, really interesting, and he's a fantastic writer. So I can read. I've read probably all of your books. So it's one of those things that I can kind of read through them, but it's also difficult because you don't want any of those other ideas to come through. So it's, I don't know, one of those funny things. Let's see. We have Chris Masters says, good news, Kate, and good series. And Stacy Wright said, awesome, thanks for answering her question earlier. Let's see. Do you find any special challenges writing in a male-driven genre? For me, I'll answer first. We're the few females that actually write in this very male-driven genre. I'm former military. I get along with them. I've not had any problems at all. I have great male fans. I've not had any issues at all like that. What is your take on things, Annie?
You kind of phased out there for a second.
Oh,
my take on
are there any challenges writing in a male-driven genre?
Writing? No, not really, because I've always said that it was with a girl's point of view. And I think that, you know, we're unique there in the fact that we write in this genre as females. I think we're some of the first ones that started to really pick up in this genre and carry it forward. Now, you know, the response from the male readers has been nothing but positive, and that I greatly appreciate, because a lot of times they're like, will you write, you know, fluffy? And it's like, no, I don't write fluffy stuff. I actually write quite the opposite. But I worked, you know, 32 years in a male-dominated industry. So, you know, I'm used to how the male brain operates.
Right.
So I try and, you know, when I write, I probably do write a little more hardcore when it comes to stuff than most. But no, I've not really had any issues at all.
Yeah. Awesome. How about you, Kate?
No, I actually was surprised when I started getting so many reviews and emails from male fans, because I thought that my books are a little heavier on relationships and even romance. And Suzanne Sherman calls me the Jane Austen of the apocalypse. So, but yeah, my books are definitely more fluff than Annie's books, which I've read your books, but yeah, no, I think the response has been surprisingly positive, because I think there's just not a lot of women out there writing apocalypse stories.
Right.
And so they don't think that we're going to know like anything about guns and things like that. And then boom, we, you know, oh, this guy's got an AR-15, and, you know, there's just some things that I think women can do differently than men, especially focusing on characters. And I've read a lot of male authors, not in the apocalypse genre, but male authors that really don't write female characters well. And I think you just don't have that insight into the female brain. We're a little trickier than men. So no, but my response has been really positive, and the fans are really great.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Sarah?
Yeah, my response has been awesome as well. I mean, I have to agree. I always grew up a little more rugged, like playing ice hockey and bow hunting and stuff that, you know, when I was younger, they were like, well, that's not what a lady does. And I'm like, well, I don't really care what a lady does. It's not what I'm doing, you know. So I was always hanging out with the guys and stuff like that anyway. So, and Erica's pretty tough character in my story, you know, my lead character. But, you know, I also tried to keep her in check so that like other females could really relate to her and be like, yeah, I can do that. I can defend myself. I can take care of myself. I can do that. Because I kind of really wanted to, you know, give that female empowerment without them being like, oh, she's just too over the top crazy. Like I could never do that. So,
yeah. It's pretty funny. Like whenever people find out I'm a writer and then they say, okay, well, what do you write?
Right.
You guys can relate. And then you know it's going downhill from there.
Yeah, I'm like post-apocalyptic fiction. They're like, oh, okay.
Like thriller. And then I'll say science fiction. Well, what kind of science fiction? Post-apocalyptic. And then they give you the funniest looks. I mean,
or they're like, give me your card. I love that stuff.
Right?
And I want to read it. Yeah.
Yeah. Then they get that glazed, wide-eyed look and they're so excited. So it's cool. Kelly?
Mine's great because I say I write post-apocalyptic books and books about serial killers.
There you go. And they start backing.
And then they back up.
And shockingly, I had a normal childhood.
It's pretty funny. Kelly J. Haynes says, so glad you're doing this. Very enlightening and informative. I have all of Kate's books, love them, and will now get the books from Sarah, Annie, and AR. Looking forward to more reading. Thank you, ladies. You're very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. Let's see. And so I was going to ask that question. Some male writers have a hard time creating interesting female characters. Do you find this as a challenge creating male characters? Is the opposite true? Do we struggle writing male characters? I don't think so for myself and my own characters. Because I don't know. I was in the military. I've had that experience. I've, you know, been around. I can relate to males. I think I do a pretty good job. Have you ever had to ask weird questions? Like, you know, I have no examples, but what about you, Annie?
I've asked some pretty pointed questions to some male people that I know. But I think that's what got me when I first started to read a lot of the male post-apocalyptic genre writers. You know, their wives had no idea, or they killed them, or they left them behind, or they were the weakest females. It's like, is this person for real? You know, do you know this person, or could you at least put a little oomph into her or something? So I think that's what really got me. You know, I couldn't take it anymore. It's like, you know, we're not all a bunch of, you know, weak-minded bimbos, or we'll leave the bimbo part out, but, you know, a lot of us have some skill, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, that needs to be seen. And I think that, you know, I've gotten nothing but positive response back from the fact that, you know, my main characters are females and I do have males in my books, don't get me wrong, never had a problem with any of them.
Right. Yeah. How about you, Kate?
No, I actually like the challenge of the writing a male character because my husband has all brothers, so I've been around them for 2 decades, and they really interact differently than women do. Yeah. But I like writing their characters because they're different, and I like the difference between the men and the women in the different characters. But I also don't, like Annie, I don't write weak female characters. Mm-hmm. They're more than capable of taking care of themselves, But then I also write very strong alpha male characters too, which my male fans actually appreciate because they don't want their male characters watered down just because it's coming from a female writer.
Right. Yeah. And Sara.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's not so much of a challenge, but so I always kind of bounce my rough drafts off my husband. I'm reading to him, and then and I tend to go like a little too maybe aggressive, or like the sex scene's like a little crazy or something. My husband's like, whoa, let's tone that back a little. And I'm like, okay, all right. So we'll take that. We'll make that a little softer. And that he's the one who's telling me to do that, so that's kind of funny sometimes, right?
That's hilarious. Okay, so along those lines, your female characters, if the apocalypse were to actually happen, would you act as bravely as your book characters? Would you be that strong female character? Annie, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I have no problem. She's very realistic. Even my editor says my characters are very, very, I don't give that big glamorous, they've got all the knowledge, they've got all the tools and all the answers all the time. She's like, they're very relatable characters in my book. They stumble, they fall, they have issues. My main character, the main marriage in my book, in Alpha Farm, ended up being where, the main character, Emma, had to make a decision on, oh, hi, kitty.
Sorry.
Had to make a decision on, does she take out one of the main one of the main people in her circle because he was acting, hard life decisions. So yeah, absolutely. I'd want Emma on my team.
Okay, cool. So you would behead the neighbor if you had to.
I don't have neighbors now, but if I was still by Mr. Jiggly, remember my adventures with Mr. Jiggly? Yeah, Kate knows. Absolutely. I'd have his head on a stick.
Kate, how about you?
I also don't really have a whole lot of neighbors, but which is a good thing for them. Yeah, I think that I would be okay. My biggest concern would, of course, be my kids, but my kids have been raised by me and my husband, who's ex-military. So, I mean, my son is on a trap shooting league. My daughter shoots, I shoot. So we got kind of a bunker here. I like to think that I could survive. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably die like the first week or something.
I'm coming to your house. I know where you live.
That's right.
Sara, how about you?
Yeah, I would like to think that I'm a second-degree black belt, and I do jujitsu. I train pretty much every night just to make sure that we're self-defense ready all the time, and do a lot of shooting. And my main character, she fights a lot for our country, and it's about restoring the Constitution and things like that. And so I've really stepped out of my box and started using my voice and my fans to push that message in real life. And I was, like I said, I was just at the Self-Reliance Expo and explaining about what they asked me, what do you see coming and what are you doing to prepare, and it's like, I see a lot of turmoil coming for our country. And if we don't all prepare by getting involved, then we're going to lose a lot of really important things in our country, And so I tend to stand really firmly behind my message. And I'd like to believe that I would be as brave as Erica is and stand for what's right in our world.
Right. Yeah. That's one of those things where you have to, whenever you're writing your characters, like I know whenever I'm doing this, I'm standing there with them, breathing the same air that they breathe, I'm there with them. And even when you're writing very traumatic scenes, you get anxious. I mean, you cry when they cry. It's tough. Yeah. Some of these scenes are very difficult to write.
And then you have to try and put it into an audiobook. And so like keep your straight face while I'm like, oh.
Have you done your own audiobooks here?
Yeah, I do all my own audiobooks.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. That's fantastic. Kudos to you. That's a big deal.
Well, I use them all for my podcast as well, right? So
okay. That's very cool. I did not know that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
see. I think I've gotten behind on some of the comments. So Pam Willis says Annie knows strong women. She also pushes women to hold our own. Yes.
Amen, sister.
Yep. Chris Master says that's what keeps us going, Kate. Your characters are strong in their own way, are very strong in their own way. Yep. And Kathy Quarter says amen to that. To all of that, I'm sure. Okay, so do you ever try out your own experiments or things that you've like discovered in research or things that you want to include? I know Sarah does. Okay, for example, I wanted to use this one thing. Back in World War II, they did not have access to poppy seeds, right? Right. So what did they didn't have opium to treat patients for pain medicine. Anyway, I ran across this recipe to use minor seed lettuce to make laudanum. It's what they used in the Civil War, making laudanum pain meds out of this. And I thought that would be cool to try. I mean, it was a cool, and you know this certain, it's probably illegal. So have you ever run across anything like that you wanted to try out? Like I've gone to the gun range to try different weapons, to try different ammo, to see it, smell it, feel it kind of thing for different books. What about you, Annie? Was there anything that you've, run across that you wanted to use in your books, like having to start a fire a certain way or?
I've done that for so long now, other than maybe build a flamethrower or, something like that. Mm-hmm. A lot of the medicinal stuff, like you said, learning some old school,
developing, drugs in your
smoking yarrow, stuff like that. I've never done that, but it's stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay. Kate?
I definitely want to be on the standby phone call if you take your own laudanum, or at least I want to know when you're going to do it so that I can come up there and
not doing it.
resuscitate you if I need to. But yeah, we actually do use a lot of the principles that we talk about in my book. So we do a lot of canning, a lot of prepping, ammo reloading is big in this house. And this summer we actually built our own solar system to heat the pool. So that was something that's a really, really big thing in my books is the grandfather had solar ideas that they implemented, and that's how they would use electricity in their home after the fall. And then they would pass that on to other people that they met and teach other people how to do it. So then my husband's like, hey, we could do this too. So we did it, and now we have our pool heated.
Yeah. And Sarah?
Yeah, so when you first asked the question, all I could envision, I just wrote this scene where my character is like escaping from, being all strung in, tied behind her back and everything. And so I was out on my deck, like rocking, trying to get my hands out to like, which is the perfect way to write this and how does it play out? And yeah. So all I could envision is myself like rolling around on the deck trying to like get the scene worked out in my head, because my husband was like, how exactly would that work? I'm like, just like this, and I was showing him. And so yeah, beyond the herbal medicines, and we have tons of miner's lettuce, so I might have to try that too.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I didn't write it. It's all over the internet. Just
all right.
But yeah, I did include it in one of my books. And then also there was like a man trap in one of I think it was the third book in the Grams Resolution series. And I thought that's really dangerous. I mean, but I wanted to see how it would actually work. And so I was setting it up and decided to not leave the last tension on the last part of the man trap, because anyone could find that. I just don't know, So yeah, it's kind of, you find yourself in these dilemmas.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is your writing kryptonite? What will just like stop you? Annie, is it stress? Is it, what would stop you from writing?
I don't think anything will stop me. I mean, life has gotten a little hectic here with the move, so I haven't got back in a groove yet, but I think that once writing is in your blood, it's in your blood. There's nothing that's going to stop you.
Mm-hmm. We only have 10 minutes left, so quickly answer, Kate.
Did we freeze?
Oh, kryptonite, writing kryptonite, just time. It's just hard to find time. when my kids move out, I'll probably write 10 books a year. I don't know. But for now, it's just a time constraints.
Yeah. And Sara?
Yeah, I have to agree with both of those. It's just time and maybe a little stress when life gets, going so fast. You just can't keep up and you're just like, I want to write it, but can't. Right. You just store it all up for when you can get it out.
Biff Baker asks, what event do you ladies think will trigger your books into reality? EMP, physical failure, tsunamis, foreign invasion, etc. Annie, can you answer that one?
Well, mine starts with a localized EMP. Well, actually, several of them set off by the government, and you're going to see some things play into with drone attacks and whatnot. So that's all I can really say right now, because the books, the end books have not come out yet, so I don't want to give it too much away, but definitely real life stuff.
Okay. And Kate? What would
I definitely worry more about foreign relations. My McLean series is based completely around North Korea setting off nukes, sets a series of events that ends up a nuclear apocalypse. Another thing that worries me is weaponized viruses.
Mm-hmm.
It's, we're just lucky that our enemies aren't that smart yet, but or if they are, our government's taking care of them already.
Yeah, and we don't need to know.
Yeah, exactly.
So my books are the Changing Earth series. So obviously I focus on the planetary changes and how our planet's changed in the past and will do so in the future. And I'm just really concerned about our reliance upon technology and not keeping our relationship with the planet, because how humans have survived before is by adapting with the planet. And if we can't maintain our adaptability, then that's a big problem. So my books are basically how the planet's changing and how the humans are reacting to the changes, what kind of social stresses that causes on top.
Right. And mine, let's see, the first one had to do with a weaponized bird flu. So we mentioned that. And then the Maunder Minimum was the second series. And I'm working on more. But one of the ones I am working on right now, like Sara said before, is somewhat of a civil unrest book. But it's going to be different. It's a different catalyst. But what would cause those things to happen? Gosh, the weaponized bird flu, in my research, there are weaponized viruses that have been missing from these different safety facilities for decades. It could happen. So there are a lot of different, and we're supposedly already in a new Maunder Minimum. It's called the Global Minimum. Yep. So those are true. Yeah. And I wrote that 2 years ago. So that's kind of scary.
And people ask me if I'm the next Nostradamus.
Yep, wrote it. Okay, so Annie, where can people find your stuff? Do you have a website? You can mention Prepper Chicks. How can people follow you and find your stuff? Annie? She can't hear me. Okay, Kate, let's go to Kate really quick.
Eric? Yes. Yeah, I do have a website, authorkatemorris.com, and that's mostly if you want a signed copy, but Amazon, Barnes & Noble, there's a few libraries and bookstores that carry the books, but mostly it's just easier to download, so Kindle, iTunes, that kind of thing.
Right, okay. And Sara?
My website is author Sara F like Frank Hathaway.com, SARAF like Frank Hathaway.com. And you can find also the autographed copies over there, links to all my books, Barnes & Noble, Amazon, but also all my information on my podcasts. And I have a whole survival guide over there and just tons of training information, because I really like to educate at the same time as I'm entertaining.
And what is the name of the podcast again, Sara?
Oh, it's the Changing Earth podcast.
Changing Earth podcast. And Annie, can you hear me? She can't hear me. Kate, can you text her really quick and sort of just say, where to find her stuff. Anyway, and you can find me on author.katershaw.com, and everything's on Amazon, of course. Biff Baker says, great event, ladies. Keep up the excellent work. Thanks so much for your input. Annie, can you hear me yet?
I'm freezing. Is that just me or you guys?
It's just you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Where can we find your stuff?
You can find me at Prepper Chicks all over Facebook or prepperchicks.org or AnnieBerdel.org. I'm all over the place all the time. So.
Okay, you guys are absolutely awesome. Let me mention a couple of things here. It says, thank you, ladies, from Michelle Prock, sharing your time and information and stories with us. Marty Mullins, thank you all. Very nice. And Crystal Strong says, great. Well, cool. Thank you guys very much for coming on. This was awesome. And we'll have to do it again. Let me know when you have new book releases and we'll have you on again by yourself solo. But thank you.
Thanks, AR.
You can stay in there for a second. Thank you, fans, for tuning in.
You.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.